Greetings and welcome to Maisha Kazidi. We are back this time with Caroline Mose. Caroline is an intellectual and a scholar, and she's the leader of the Naboisho Institute. And we are here to talk about matters education and also the workplace. Karibu, Caroline.
Thank you. Thank you. So I can't believe it's been this long. Like it's taken me this long to come to Maisha Kazini. Always followed your work. I love your work. I am always camping on your YouTube videos from way back. So I'm really happy to be here. Finally.
Finally, I'm also happy. I remember inviting you, but very, very early on, but you were in a transition space. We are talking about transitions. So
Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
so you couldn't come that time. So I'm also happy that you're here. And I just want to say I really appreciate your conversations. They're very good for my soul.
Yeah, same here. Every time I see your phone call, I'm like, oh yeah, it's like therapy. Like I'm going to have intellectual therapy, spiritual therapy. Yeah, it's one of those things I look forward to every time I speak with you. Yeah.
And in fact, the last time I had called you earlier, I think sometime last week, I was like, I am feeling so bad about what's going on. Let me call Caroline.
Yeah. Yes, yes. I mean, wow. Wow. Let me just say wow about what's going on in the country. Wow.
Oh, ooh. Anyway, maybe you could tell us. I am assuming that you did not expect to be where you are right now, given your intellectual journey in the education
Yeah.
system. So maybe where would you like to start, when you were a lecturer or just before? Maybe you can start with your doctoral studies.
Yes, yes. So I did my doctoral studies. How many years ago has it been now? 10, 11, maybe? Actually, more. And I did my PhD at the University of London. That is the School of Oriental and African Studies. Did my 3.5 years, had a baby in between, in somewhere in the middle there. So that was an interesting challenge by itself, having a small child in the middle, smack in the middle of your PhD. So I always think about him, that my first child, as the child that breastfed on the raw intellectual milk. I hope it helps him in his life. It didn't like scar him or traumatize him in any way. But so I did that, and then I finished. And when I finished, my purpose had always been to come back to Kenya, because for some reason my heart just never settled in that country. Not that it's a bad country, treated me very well. I had scholarships, I was well treated, but I always wanted to come back home. In that sense, I wanted my son to grow up at home, on home soil, next to his grandparents and my siblings. So I came back immediately after that. And then it took a while. It was one of those transitions. I feel like I've become the mistress of transitions of life. So I had to transition from this fresh PhD, and you come back home, you don't know anyone, so there are no jobs. You are
Yeah.
too overqualified for the normal jobs, and I'm putting that in quote, the normal jobs. But you don't know anyone in the education ecosystem, because I did both my master's and my PhD in the UK. So I come back, I don't know anybody in the university system, I cannot get a teaching job. So I was in this limbo for about 9 months. And then a friend of mine called McKenna, I always call her my fairy godmother of jobs. I met her through a writing program at the British Council, actually, way back then. She's one of my OG friends. So she calls me and tells me, oh, there's a small research job here. Are you interested? And within a week, I was in a new job after 9 months of waiting. And it was a market research job. I did that for about 2.5 years. And one thing I appreciate about that job is that it took me across the continent. I even lived in Nigeria, in Lagos, for 4 months after repeated visits. I found it to be a very interesting country. the thing that shocked me about Lagos and still does today was the huge wealth disparity between the uber wealthy and the extremely poor, sitting in the same space, breathing the same air, but their lives were so different. And you could see it in the breath of one day. You are meeting people in focus groups and, key informant interviews because it was market research. You're talking to CEOs who use choppers to come to the office from Victoria Island. And in the same day, you're meeting homeless people living in the streets of Lagos. I used to find it was very shocking, even to me as someone who was grown up in Nairobi. I used to find it very shocking. Yeah, yeah. And then after that, I did that for 2.5 years, and then I went to the university. I got a teaching job, which I did for 7 years. The other fairy godmother who got me that job was Professor Emily Akuno, who is now the vice chancellor at JUST. Brought me in, and I did that for 7 years. And I always say those were the best years of my life. I got to work with young people again. I got to teach. I got to understand young people, and I loved it. There's something when you're around young people, they have got this beautiful energy. They see things with very fresh eyes. They have not yet reached the jaded way of seeing life that many of us are reaching now. And one of the things that pains me now is that innocence in our young people is getting smaller and smaller and sort of disappearing. And that pains me. I've seen that. I saw that in the course of the 7 years, and it pains me till now. I see it reducing with each passing year, especially in this country. And then after the 7 years, I went to work for an NGO. I went to the NGO sector. I sold out. Everything was selling out. Why are you going? Why are you doing this? The development world is an anti-politics machine, of course. If you've read, what's the name of this man? James Ferguson calls it the anti-politics machine because it ignores the political causes of the problems it's trying to solve. So I found out a little bit. I went, and I had reasons. Higher education is being defunded very systematically and very brutally. It's become very difficult to honestly teach, especially in a public university, because I was in a public university. And I had bills to pay. I had children to feed. So I kind of sold out a little bit, did that for about 2 years and 2.5 years. And then now I left. So I'm now again in this, I told you I'm the mistress of transition. So now I'm in this transition between that and trying to set up this space, a transitionary space for young people so that they can manage life's transitions in a less painful manner than I have experienced myself. So in a nutshell, that has been my life story.
And what was your field of research when you were at the university?
My master was a Master of Science, actually. I did a Master of Science in African Studies. So we were the ones looking at, I remember one of the courses was called Violence and Historical Memory in Eastern Africa. So we're looking at the entire Eastern Africa. This was at Oxford, the African Studies Master's degree at Oxford. And it was one of those things that opened my eyes to, the history and who has written the history and what is fronted as important for us to know about the history, even the history of the Mau Mau. And this was the times, the time of, like, there was David Anderson on the faculty, there was Terence Ranger, all these big names we were reading and interacting with. It was a very interesting time of my life. I did that. So when I transitioned into the PhD at SOAS, of course, with this, I know the history of SOAS. Oxford was the university that educated the colonial
Yes.
officers. And then SOAS is the one that trained the anthropologists that came along to come and say the Kikuyu are lazy, they wake up at 10 o'clock. And so I was in this space and I knew the histories of the universities I studied in and what they stand for to me as a Kenyan and to the history of my people. So I was very conscious about that. And it was very interesting to see what Oxford offered me and what SOAS offered me. And that actually informed my decision to actually come back and see what will Kenya offer me, this Kenya that I have now learned from the lens of the colonial administrators and the anthropologists. So when I went to do my PhD at SOAS, I did a PhD in African studies, and I was looking specifically at culture, youth cultures and popular cultures. And so actually my PhD thesis was on popular culture. Yeah.
Why I'm laughing is because I had not seen the connection. Okay, first I thought SOAS was in Oxford, so I didn't know it was University of London, but I didn't see the connection between between the colonial officers and the anthropologists. And I realized I've been reading the autobiographies of civil servants, Kina Keriene and Degwa and Nyachai. Apparently, in 1961, they were all taken, all the civil servants who were supposed to be taking over at independence, they were taken to Oxbridge in 1961. They returned in 1962 after 1 year of training, and then they were supposed to be an understudy of the British officers, now leading up to independence. So you can imagine. You can imagine that that's how our civil service looks.
Of course.
And they were training at the same place as the British colonial officers.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so you can see even the way the thing that we need to understand about education in Kenya as it is today, and Mbembe has written about this a lot. When he was writing about the African city, he said, the African city, the typical African city, Johannesburg, Nairobi, Lagos, has been created as a mimicry of a European city.
Yes.
And so when the Europeans came here, they were creating their cities in an elsewhere. And so and if you extrapolate that onto education, onto the civil service, everything that we, came in because of the colonial enterprise has ended up being a mimicry of everything that is there. And you can see that our colonial overlords, we use that term very loosely, have never really left. They've never removed their hands from the cookie dough, because we have to continue being an imaginary, an image of what they do over there. So in other words, the civil society, the education system have been created in the image and likeness of the colonial education civil service systems. And we all know, especially if you look at England, for example, and its history, with the kings, you've got the royal family, and then you've got the royals, and then you had, the first estate, second estate, the third estate, I think, was the clergy. That is how our own society, our own, our social cultural makeup looks like. Those hierarchies exist. And the civil society was there to serve the interests of the first, second, and third estates. And then, of course, now you had the media as the fourth estate, which was under the control and was there to serve the interests of these other hierarchies. And that's how it looks like here in Kenya today. The civil service, education system, name it. It is a mimicry, an imitation. And anything that is an imitation to be a cheaper imitation of the original.
In fact, even that's what Binyavanga says in that article, Schooling for Small Minds. He says Kenya has created this space where everything supposedly works, but it works. And he calls it, I think, the Deloitte and Touche culture. That's what he calls it. And he says it works only for 5%. And then we are okay with the violence and poverty outside that 5%.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I'm also a writer and a creative writer, and I love Binyavanga's work and I read widely.
Yeah.
Now, if you read British writers, for example, the Clantys, and I'm trying to look at my like Ken Follett. Ken Follett has got a series where he talks about the great disparities between the 5% and the 95%. The 95% paid taxes, stayed hungry, starved and died through winters to make sure that the 5%, which was the king and his people, the noblemen, the knights and the dukes, to make sure that they were well fed and that they were comfortable. And that is exactly what the Kenyan system is. The Kenyan system, if you go to where the 5% lives, if you manage to gain access to where the 5% lives, even here in Nairobi, you will be shocked by the there's a stark difference between how the 5% lives and how the rest of us live. And you can see how the 5% thinks about things. They'll come up and say, oh, we, like recently, was it yesterday? The CS for health saying, we were not going to consult Kenyans about the Ebola center, and we are not consulting them. And to him, he's not being arrogant. We are not to be consulted about such things.
Yeah.
We are there to serve the interests and the needs and desires of the 5%. And so when we come out here and we are talking about why are you not consulting us, they're like, why are we consulting you? Who are you to be consulted? And it sounds arrogant, but that's just the way they think. And you can see the impatience. Even when you talk to very wealthy people, you can see the impatience. When you talk to a very wealthy person, after 2 minutes, they're looking around, they're like, you're wasting time. Like, what are you saying? There is no time to sit still and think about the things you're doing. They don't have time for that. So it is, why on earth would we consult you? As who? You have no power, you have no wealth, you really have no say. And it's not arrogance. That's the mimicry I'm talking about. It's like people telling the king, you must consult us. He'll be like, why?
How?
As who?
What does that even mean?
What does that mean? Exactly. And so that is exactly what we see now. And that's why I get impatient when people say things like, oh, we can't blame colonialism. That was I don't know how many years ago. We should have gotten over it now. We are 60 years old. I'm like, oh, the length of the Kenyan state today is shorter than the length of the colonialism that produced the Kenyan state. So you can't tell us to get over it when we have not even gotten over the number of years that colonialism took from us and then created us, because there was no Kenya without the colonialists. And so even the way we exist is as a produce of colonialism. So we cannot ignore that and say, let's move on. What are we moving on to when we don't even understand where we are coming from? If that makes sense.
And in fact, when I read that statement, I just read it this morning. I was thinking, I was not even annoyed. I was like, he actually said it, and it's okay. I don't think he sees a problem. I mean, that's what was shocking me.
Yes. If he saw a problem, I would be shocked. And he's not the first person to talk like this. And so I mean, I guess it's loud now because of all the noise we are making online, and there's a full digital glare on all our leaders. But our leaders have always been like this. Why should I consult you? And it's very paternalistic, even in our homes. Imagine going to tell your dad, you must consult us before you make decisions in the house. He would be like, Since when am I consulting the children in the home? You live in my house. I am the leader here. You just do what I say and everybody will be okay. And now the population is saying that's not okay. Our children are saying that's not okay. As consultants, you stop. Yeah. So that's where we are.
Maybe then that's a good way to start talking about the school system. What's your sense of, hey, for the first time, I'm speechless. I've been talking about school problems for long, but this one has left me really not even knowing what to think. Yeah. What's your sense of why there's a flare up in the schools? And it's not the first time anyway. Yeah.
Let's start from your comment. It's not the first time. This is not the first time that we are having flare-ups. It's not the first time we have school fires. It's not the first time young people are saying enough is enough. You know, there's a belief, and I've been hearing people saying, oh, we are not our parents, we are a different generation. And I'm like, you know, even the Orengos of today in their maybe their 60s, approaching their 70s, remember they were called young turks because they were a thorn in the side of Moi when they were in their 30s and 40s. And it's not a long time ago. And so when people say we are not our parents and I don't know what, I'm like, well, you know, that's debatable because it's not the first time. It's not the first time. It might be that it's the first time there's this full digital glare with all that's going on. But if we were to work backwards, we had the Tumishi Girls Academy burning just last month, a week or so ago. In September of 2024, we had Hillside and Arusha. And I remember how, you know, the emotion and the horror, rightfully so, that incident elicited, because how are children, 21 children, I think it was. I mean, it's shocking. But then after Hillside, Utumishi happened last week. Before Hillside, I remember this because my sister is an alumna of Moi Girls High School was it 2017 or 2018? But
2017.
10 students died in a night, same thing as Utumishi Girls. Some girls feeling a little bit disgruntled and they went and they lit a fire and 10 people died. Before Moi Girls, there was a Sumbi in 2012, around there. 8 people died in that fire because the windows had grills and nobody could escape. Before Sumbi, there was Changuli, and I think I remember late President Moi going to Changuli and weeping openly, like tears were flowing down his face, because it was shocking. 67 boys perished in Changuli. Before that, there was Bombolulu. I remember I was quite young.
Yes.
Bombolulu. 26 girls died in Bombolulu. And then before that, there was the St. Kizito, which was shocking because, you know, there was violence in the school, and then there was unrest, and then the boys went and attacked the girls in their dorm, and it was just this carnage, this horror. 19 girls died. And we're just talking about 90s up to now. Before that, if you look at the history, it's not, school burnings didn't start in with St. Kizito. They started, I think, was 1908 or something. I was reading something.
At Maseno.
At Maseno, 1908.
There was a strike. I just read about it last week. No, actually, yesterday. I was reading it yesterday. So the boys were being forced to go to the shamba, and they were saying, we want the education like the one that Wazungu are getting. We want literal education. That's why we are here. So I don't know whether they banned anything, but they went on strike. Yeah.
This was 1908.
Yeah.
So school unrest is not new. What is new for me, especially after Utumishi, is that all these years, Prof, we have learned nothing.
Nothing.
That's number one. Number two, the same rhetoric from St. Kizito all the way to Bombolulu, all the way now to Moi girls, especially if you look at the Moi girls fire and the Utumishi girls fire, same rhetoric.
Same.
Oh, they were lesbian gangs. Oh, the parents are not good parents. They're not disciplining their children. Oh, we are our children are soft. We must teach them that life is not easy. Same thing, same rhetoric. For me, I look at the ongoing conversation around the Utumishi fire, and I feel very sad. I feel sad for two things. One, girls died, children.
Yeah.
And I'm calling them children because they're underage. They hadn't reached the age of maturity.
Mm.
I have to grapple with the stark reality that I live in a society that has no problem with killing children.
Yeah.
In such gruesome, preventable ways, because it's not the first time. And then instead of us sitting as people and telling ourselves, this is now too much, this has happened too many times, can we now come to the table and do something concrete about this? We start the same blame games. They were lesbians. It is the parents. Now I'm even seeing a new one. Oh, these are children of police, and you know that it's the police, and the police parents are arrogant. So they are creating arrogant children. I'm like, listen, guys, we cannot.
What?
Yeah. It's online. Oh, to a police. So it's like it's obvious why these kids would do such a thing, and I'm like, it's not obvious. And so we tend, I think the Kenyan culture, and I say Kenyan with myself in there,
Yes.
we are like, we live in the elephant phenomenon, where we are standing in front of this giant elephant, and the person holding the tail is saying, this is a fly whisk. And this fly whisk is not important. We need to burn it, throw it in the fire. The person near the trunk is saying, this is a snake, and it feels like a big snake. It's an anaconda. We need to kill it and burn it. The person holding the trunk is saying, this is a tree, and we must cut it down. The person holding, the body of the animal is saying, this feels like a wall and it is rough. We need to break it. And so the few people who have a bird's eye view and saying, that's an elephant, are not being heard. And so they're reaching a place where they've become very impatient. I am telling you, this is an elephant. The person at the tail is saying, and I'm telling you, it's a fly whisk. The person at the front is telling, I am telling you, it's a snake. There is no agreement that the person with the bird's eye view is telling you, this is an elephant. Meanwhile, the elephant is alive, it is growing, and it is eating. And there are people benefiting from that elephant. Growing, eating, they're probably collecting the dung to benefit themselves. And they're very happy that everybody is saying fly whisk, wall,
Yes.
snake. Yes. And they're making it difficult for the people who are saying it's an elephant not to be heard. And the people saying elephant are getting annoyed. I'm telling you, it's an elephant. Why can't you see it? And they're like, no. Why are you talking down at us? Why are you telling us? I am seeing this is a fly whisk, this is a snake. Why are you telling me it's an elephant? And so we get engaged in the conversations of fly whisk, snake, elephant, tree. Each of the people seeing a small part of this elephant, their instinct is to destroy it. Snake,
Yes.
kill. Fly whisk, throw in the fire. Tree, chop it down.
Wall.
Wall, break it down. Nobody is saying, you are seeing wall, I'm seeing elephant. Can we join hands and pull back a little bit and see what are the commonalities with everything we say? And must we only always approach things with a very violent response? Kill, girls, arsonists, throw in jail and throw away the key. Parents, bad, not disciplined children, do something to them. school, boarding, not working, ban boarding schools and close all of them down. Not realizing that one of the reasons why boarding schools exist is that they offer something that some homes don't have.
Yes.
Stability. I know very many families that send their children to boarding because the home front is too violent. There's not enough food. There are not enough resources. There is nobody to take care of the children. So you take them to boarding, not because you hate them and you're throwing them away, but because you're offering them some safety, some structure, even if it's for 3 months. Not all homes are safe homes for children, and not all schools are unsafe environments for children. So we need to find a common denominator. Where is the problem? I think we all know where the problem is, but because I've been saying the trunk is a snake for the last 30 years, I don't want to change my mind and say, I may be wrong. It could actually be the elephant everybody's talking about. That's where we are. And I think, I don't know how to unstick us as a people from that place. I feel like we are so stuck and everybody is in their heels. Yeah.
But could you name the elephant for us? In fact, I wanted to ask you if you could link it to what you observed about the colonial structure. How does the school fit in that system?
When you think of a school, you have to think of a school as a part of the whole. So assuming the school is the tail. So what is the elephant? The elephant is the Kenyan state. The Kenyan state is made up of so we have now the people. You've got the men, the women, the young people, the children, etc. All these people form society, communities, families, etc. All these people in the community and the society exist within different structures. You've got the school system, you've got government, so there are different systems. And then society now forms what we call culture or cultures. As a member of community A, this is our culture that we have carried through our DNA, through our customs, etc. etc. So you've got cultures. And then you also have common cultures. When we all meet in Nairobi, for example, our cultures tend to mix and then we form this Nairobi culture or this. So all these things are held together by culture. I like to think of culture as the glue that holds all these different things together to form a coherent community. Because if you're not a coherent community, then it means you are nothing. So our coherent communities could be that I am a Kenyan. It could be that I am Maasai. It could be that I am Kikuyu. But ultimately, we are Kenyans. And that's why when you go somewhere else and then you hear a person speaking a familiar language from Kenya, you tend to gravitate towards them. Oh, you're from Kenya? Yes, I'm from Kenya. So what is the elephant? The elephant is the Kenyan polity, is the Kenyan system. So schools, youth, children, men, women exist. They all form a part of this elephant. So you might call this is the tail, this is etc. Then, of course, we have our systems of governance, which are now are part of the culture that holds the society together. Even in our own traditional African societies, you had this group or this community with a leader or a form of leadership, either spiritual, physical, which was either political, at the family level, at the village level. There is a way in which you have to maintain law and order. And law and order is not a bad thing. Law and order is not a bad thing. That is how you create trust. That is how you deal with petty crime. That's how you deal with people who are problematic. I take it back to Land Without Thunder, the story of Tekayo by Grace Ogot. And I'm saying that because we've been having conversations and discussions around that story, which is so, it's a profound story for me because at the end of the story, it shows how the community dealt with Tekayo. There was a system of law and order. You have broken law and order to the extent to which you can no longer fit in this community. So this is how we deal with you. And he accepted his fate. He had to, because he knew what he had done, etc. Now, when all these things are happening together, and something happens in the community, or like now Kenya, we are seeing all these school burnings. We cannot afford to see school burnings in isolation and say the children are unruly, the children are ABCD. And this is not to say let's romanticize the children and not call out the bad things they're doing, especially these girls who set that fire.
Yeah.
What they did was horrific. It was horrific. But we cannot see it in isolation. If we see in isolation, that is saying, fly whisk, chop it off. And it's not a fly whisk, it's a tail. So what is this tail? What is the animal? The animal is the Kenyan, is Kenya. The idea, the construction of Kenya. I'll tell you what I mean by that. You see these kids who are in school right now, one of the characteristics of this generation is that everything they're doing, or many of the things they're doing, are heavily influenced by things that are going on online. So there's this digital glare that wasn't there before. And it doesn't mean that all the children have phones and they have access to the internet, but the technology is part of their lives. It's part of the language they speak.
Yes.
So what does that mean? It means there are things that are happening in another place that they're aware of, that in our day, we would wait to see in the news. Now, those things don't even come on the news. By the time you're seeing it on the news, you've seen it on TikTok, you've seen it on Twitter, you've seen it somewhere. You've been sent a video on WhatsApp, etc. So these kids are growing up in a country. If we start with the political, we have normalized very abnormal things in our politics as a people. We've got people in office who should not be in office.
Yes.
You've got people in office doing things they should not be doing while in office. And those things are not hidden because we are talking about it in our homes, in our matatus, in our schools, and the children are listening and they're hearing and assimilating. We are doing things as a people that the children are seeing, but we are not thinking they're seeing. I'll give you an example, Prof. There's a time I was in my small car and I was driving somewhere and I made a mistake. Like I was trying to swerve a pothole and I almost hit a gentleman who was in a Mercedes Benz. The man rolled down his window and showed me the middle finger. Now, I was not shocked at the middle finger. I was shocked that he was showing me the middle finger and I could see 5 children inside his car.
By the way.
So my shock was more like, I was expecting him to, I tried to sort of say, I'm sorry, it's my fault. I was trying to swerve, there was a pothole on the road. He showed me the middle finger and he said something I didn't hear because I had some music I was playing music in my car. But the thing he must have said was probably not a good thing. He uttered words that probably were not polite. I counted 5 children in his car, 4 at the back and 1 at the front. 5. Now, this is not the only person who does that. So even we, the adults, we are walking around, we abuse people, we insult people, we talk badly about people, including the teachers of our children. And I don't know, we assume maybe they don't hear, or, we have reached a place where, because we live with our children so much, there are things we do and we assume they're not seeing and they're seeing. Even the way we talk about our leaders and our politicians, it's not like we must say good things about them. But I've had children repeating things and I'm like, this child is saying about, the president and whoever. And of course, there's freedom of speech and all that, but there's a way that we speak, there's a way we behave as the adults in this society that leaves a lot to be desired. There are many things that we are also doing that our children are seeing, not even in our homes, even outside. Remember the 2024, the finance bill protests. In the middle of the day, the police would come to your neighborhood and there would be gunshots, people were being shot, photos were circulating. These children were seeing. Some of them were victims of the shootings and the burnings and the arrests. They were seeing. So we have created a very chaotic, violent, abusive society with these children living in it. Then, remember also, we're talking about the political economy. So if you're looking at the economic side, when people are struggling, you know, you're in your house and you're saying, and you're being told, gas imeisha. And you start saying, I don't have money for gas, you're using gas badly, you know, things are so bad. All that anxiety about the economy and, you know, where we are going as a country, we are voicing that and the children are absorbing it. When your child comes and tells you, I want new shoes, you tell the person, I don't have money, there's no money for new shoes. That's a very heavy thing to say to a child. And children absorb a lot of things from us. And then, like I was looking at these girls, you know, we joke a lot and say that your frontal lobe closes at 25. So these are kids who are 14, 15, 16, 17. Probably didn't even think about consequences the way adults think of. I mean, we rarely think about consequences ourselves. That a light a fire here and people will burn and die. The thinking might not be as clear as we might imagine it to be. And even if it is clear, the fallout, the grief, the horror, the long-lasting consequences may not necessarily have been in these girls' minds. And I'm not saying that to excuse what they did. I am saying all these things to explain the elephant is the Kenyan culture of violence, lawlessness, chaos. Just the other night, we saw this matatu that has been doing the snake dance thing. People died. People actually died. Like it crushed and killed people. These are things that happen in full glare, not just of the police and politicians and we, the adults. It's happening in the full glare of the young people. In fact, young people love those matatus. Why are they allowed to do those things? And we know these things, you know, aggressive driving, changing of lanes, overspeeding. There are regulations in the books. Remember the Mishuki laws that everybody, you know, was very unhappy about, and how Mishuki said if you rattle a snake, you must be prepared to be bitten. Of course, he was talking like a British trained administrator of, I am saying this and it must be done. And of course now...
He went to Oxbridge. He was in that cohort.
Correct. I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised. The result of that is that there was a bit of a taming of the matatu industry, which could have been done better. Yes, could have been done better, but he did it the way he did it, and there were results. So we are not disputing the result. All those things are on paper. They have been proven to work. But now we have got powerful people with matatus and you cannot stop them. The drivers, you cannot arrest the drivers. You cannot take them to court. You cannot even go to the police station to write an OB and open a case against them because they are connected. And the young people who celebrate these matatus and the lawless criminal things they're doing know these things are lawless and criminal, but they know these things are accepted. Who is accepting them? The people in charge, the adults in charge are accepting this. And the result is death. And so we cannot start seeing things in isolation. We must see it. And so the solutions, therefore, cannot start at the tail. You cannot chop off the tail of the elephant. You have to stop the elephant, first of all. You have to contain the elephant. You have to find out. Then we ask ourselves, where do we begin? You cannot begin solving problems at the tail. In fact, you will need the tail to swat off the flies as you try and fix these other parts of this animal. What is this animal eating? who is benefiting from the way this animal is eating. You have to start from there. You have to start from, so this is the conversation many of us don't want, because it means when girls die in a dormitory, we, the Kenyan people, the Kenyan society, are culpable. We are guilty as charged. Yes.
And I hadn't even seen the connection between the mathris and the school, because it's the same youth. So the youth are doing this on the road, and you don't want them to do it in school. I mean, come on. I mean, we need to be serious, like really.
Absolutely. Mind you, many of the younger people from the not so privileged, now we used to have the national schools, the alliances, and then you had the provincial, and then now you have C1, C2, C3, and C4. Majority of C4 schools are actually day schools, which means you now have grade 10, Form 3, and Form 4 commuting to school and back. And how are they commuting if not using these matatus? So you have these young people weaving in traffic, and then they go to class, and you expect them to do what? To sit in class quietly and listen to the teachers and say nothing when they've just been listening to the most absurd music you can ever play on the most absurd speakers in the most absurd matatu. Day in and day out, they're witnessing this. And they are friends with these drivers and touts.
Yes.
You expect them. How do you expect them to live and to be? I mean, the cognitive dissonance in the way we approach things continues to shock me. This is the same society. Yeah. Mind you, I'll tell you, these are the same kids who watch their parents go to rallies, be given 1,500 shillings, unga, nini, and take back home. And they know this is not the way you're supposed to do politics, but they can see this is how they're doing it. And we, the parents, we go to the rallies, we take the money, we take the unga, we take the whatever that is being dished out, and we take it back home proudly and share with our these same children who are now back in school. And how do we expect them to behave when we have already allowed the lawlessness, the criminality to find them up to their plates? The food they're eating has been provided by a politician. Yeah.
Wow. Hey, that's a lot of homework. It's a lot of homework.
Yeah. Yeah. So when I see these kids, it's not I'm trying to excuse them. I do not excuse them. I have a child who is in that guinea pig class of CBC, and I tell him every day, choices have consequences, actions have consequences. But if he did that, I would sit in sorrow. One, he has cut short his own future. And that, I want us to sit with that a little bit.
Yes.
Did you know that many young people from the age of 15 onwards have no hope for the future?
I actually wanted to ask you whether there's a link between what they are seeing in the political economy and the way they are suffering in school.
Yes. You see, these children, again, they're not in isolation. Some of them have older siblings. Older siblings who've got to university, maybe finished or college, maybe a certificate, a diploma, whatever. And they see their older siblings struggling to find jobs, struggling to find decent jobs. There are jobs.
Yeah. And
there are decent jobs, and there are dignified jobs. These three things are not the same. I could be having a job, but I have to ask my parent for fare because I'm not being paid at all. Or what I'm being paid is so little, it cannot even last me 2 weeks. I could be in a job that is paying me slightly more, but it's not a dignified workplace. So I'm being abused, I'm being harassed, I'm being harangued. So I'm unhappy. My younger siblings are watching me and saying, hey, first class honors, no job, You have been tamaking here for 5 years. They are seeing what is happening in the political economy. They are seeing their parents age out and not able to afford medical care. We are always in harambes. Every week, we are in our WhatsApp group. We are giving something. Somebody's unwell. You don't even have to be in a WhatsApp group. You just have to be tagged on Twitter. Oh, there's somebody here who needs help. Somebody here who needs this. Someone has, cancer diagnosis. There's always something going on, and we are always chipping. Someone needs blood. They are seeing all this. And so when you talk to young people, and I remember I started by saying I loved working with young people and their energy and all that. And I see that diminishing because they look ahead and they're like, I just don't see it. I don't see, there's no hope. There are no jobs. And I remember sometime, was it either KU or JKUAT? The former DP went there at a graduation ceremony and he told the graduating class, there are no jobs. So when you come out of here, mujipange. And everybody was like, wait, what? You can't just come and tell us that on our graduation day that, oh, now you have a degree, but you're on your own. Like he was very, very open about it. There are no jobs.
But that's his work. His work is to ensure there are jobs.
He went and told them that. I remember watching that because I love watching all these ceremonies. And I was like, hey, wait, what? Did he just say what I heard him say? He actually said it with his own words. There are no jobs. So you tell that to young people, there are no jobs. Then they come out here, they are desperate. I had another student from KU, and I actually put this on my podcast. He said, he was graduating, he was being interviewed, he said, if I've now finished my studies, once I finish like this and I have my paper in my hand, if I cannot find a job, I will become a goon for a politician. The words came out of his mouth. Yes. Because as a goon, at least I'll be paid something.
Yes.
Yes, exactly. I mean, I have to eat and I have to support my family. I am a boy. I'm a firstborn in my family. I cannot just go and sit down for 2 years. I'm job hunting. I have to support my family. I have to support my siblings because I was supported to finish my degree. So you can see these pressures, these expectations on young people, but there's no support for them. And then you expect them to have hope for a future when they see the things that are going on and they can witness, and it's difficult. It's difficult to have, and I'm not saying this for people to become hopeless. I am a firm believer in having hope, hanging on to the last. I can hang on to the last tooth in my mouth with tears flowing down my face, but I'll still hang on. Why? I still feel that as long as we are here, we are breathing and we are still thinking, we can do something for ourselves and for the young people. But the hope is not there. So even this child that is in high school right now, and I remember reading something that you said, and I also saw it in I think it was Dr. Oburu's work, even that comparison between schools. I remember going to a school in Ukambani called Ilakomututa Secondary School. I think if it still exists now, it's probably a C4 school or maybe C3, a sub-county boarding school, because the C4 are, I think, sub-county day schools. And when because I was going there with this church mission, I was told, you go and speak to the girls. So I took the girls aside and we were talking. And I was telling them, so how are you guys doing? And they were like, we are just there. I asked them why. You know what they told me? We know the people in Alliance, the girls in Alliance.
Yes.
So when I read that, what you wrote, I was like, this is true. I've heard it with my own ears. The girls in Alliance who are there because they're connected and their parents got them those spaces will get all the opportunities. And we also know Alliance has water, Alliance has electricity, Alliance has a library. When we wake up in this school, the first port of call as girls is we must go and fetch water. They used to fetch water to bring to not just for them to shower, they fetch water to come and bring to the dining hall. They fetch water to come and bring for you. Yes, for the school to use. And they were like, Alliance girls don't have to do this. Kenya high school girls don't have to do this. So they already knew they were on the back foot. And they were doing things that other girls in other more privileged spaces did not have to do. How do you expect this person to have hope for the future when they're already on the back foot and they're already telling you they know the girls in Alliance, Kenya High, and which other school? They mentioned Alliance and Kenya High. They said those ones wako mbele yetu and we will never catch up. And I thought to myself in that moment, these people have a deep insight into the inequality in the Kenyan ecosystem. And that's another thing that we have to sit with if we are going to resolve this problem and ask ourselves, what is the elephant? The elephant is that some people have been born near, to be very crude, the back end of the elephant. And when the elephant is defecating, they're the ones who are bearing the full brunt of that defecation. And there are people who are at the forefront. Their work is to eat and swallow and to do the easier tasks. That hierarchy, the inequalities in our country, in our polity, in our political economy, is something that we also cannot run away, and it's bearing into this conversation around schools and school unrest and the education system. Yes, Alliance boys went on strike. Was it yesterday or the day before? And the a few boys were found, I think, burning mattresses in a store or something. But the truth is, you cannot compare the boys going to Alliance, because even Alliance today, you have to if your child is not called there, and I'm saying if, you have to make phone calls to get your child into Alliance. And I'm sure people will, when they watch this, they'll be like, no, that's not, it is the truth. You sit with that truth. You made a phone call, most likely made a phone call to someone who knows someone to get your girl, to get your boy into Alliance. That is the truth. Let's be honest. And maybe you paid something. And I'm not pointing fingers. I'm not saying XYZ person accepted the money to get you. But we all know people were making payments, and there were rumors flying around of 150,000, 200,000 to get your child into
250.
Yeah, there was. I'm sure you heard about it as well. And those figures were there because parents were paying. They were paying to put their children there. So we already know the problems that are being faced in Alliance are not being felt the same way in Ilakomututa. Although the young people in both spaces are experiencing the same Kenya, the same inequalities, they are witnessing and experiencing the same things. So we have to look at it also from that lens. It's the same things. Some are feeling it more than others. The inequalities are in some places more than other places, but the issues are the same. Yeah.
Wow. In fact, that C1, C2 thing actually surprised me, because during the colonial times, they used that classification to deny Africans secondary school education. So they were classifying the primary schools according to C1, which is the high cost primary school, high cost, well-resourced primary school, then down like that. So I'm really surprised that the ministry imported that thing back into the system. But it's like I don't know, it's like they have no historical intelligence. That's what Yvonne Award called it. They don't have.
And I don't think they care that much.
Yeah.
I've come to understand the bureaucrats in Kenya. If you meet them individually, they are brilliant people, they qualified people. The bureaucrats in the Ministry of Education are people with PhDs. These are not people that were picked off, from these are people with PhDs. These are people who are learned, people who have done research. But the moment they enter into that space, it's like the circumstances, the way that thing is structured cannot allow them to make intelligent decisions, cannot allow them to suggest anything intelligent. And then I also realized this about our civil servants. They have no time to sit down and read and assimilate things. If you call one right now, they'll tell you, oh, I don't know, some funny place, it's some place we've never had. Or I've been sent, I don't know, I'm in Tanzania. Or I've been sent on this. They're always being sent to, the appearance of work is more important for the bureaucracy than the work itself. So if you're sending me, oh, you have sent me to Sijui Bombolulu, you have not sent me again to Sijui somewhere in Mwanza, you have sent me here. They're always being sent up and down, impromptu sometimes. You wake up in the morning, you get a phone call, you're told, tunakutumia dereva, you're supposed to be in Meru. And you're like, wait, I'm supposed to drop off my child to school. They don't even have time for those kinds of things. They're always up, down, up, down. They have no time to sit and assimilate things and read things and suggest things. The bureaucracy has to appear to work even when it's doing nothing. Yeah, unfortunately.
Huh? Yeah, I've been trying to understand why the civil service looks the way it is. It's such a bizarre thing. And they are busy. They're all over.
And civil servants are not paid that well. All you have to do is look at the official salaries that, when they're advertising for those jobs. Someone with a PhD is being offered 108,000 as a basic salary. And that is a system that is deliberately designed to survive on per diems. So if you're sent to Meru today, you won't say no. In fact, you'll say next time, send me to Mombasa or Malindi. It's further away. Send me to Vipingo. Because the per diems are also calculated according to the distance from from your office. You'll say, send me to Turkana, send me to Marakwet, send me, because it is designed to work like that. It is designed to work on per diems because the salaries themselves, the base salaries are so small. And these are people who also need, and I'm not talking about the higher civil servants, the PSs. Those ones are a different political class. I'm talking about the people on the ground in the civil service doing the work are not that well compensated, to be completely honest. And it is by design, so that when you send them with per diems, they just go. That's just the way it is.
I think for me, what is more important is that the structure does not allow you to critique it. So even if you were to say, come on, stop sending me here, I've already done 5 trips this month, I don't care about the money, I need to take my kid to school. There's no way to articulate that in such a system. You look like you're mad.
Yes, you'll even look like ni kazi ya utaki ama ni shida iko wapi. And then the civil service is also very fraternal. I go in, I bring in my cousin who doesn't have a job, qualified, but maybe doesn't have a job, or is looking to change jobs from one place to another. So once I get you that job, and then you come and tell me they were not giving me time to do school dropout, I'll look at you like, but I got you that job. What do you mean? Look for someone to be picking your child from school. What is the issue? So you don't, and it's because the bureaucracy is not humane. It's not built on humanity. It's built on the structure and the system. And at the forefront is the structure and the system. It's not the human being. They don't care about the human being. It has to perpetuate itself. So, it takes away the humanity also of the people that work inside it.
Wow. Okay, let's go to Naboisho because it's kind of connected.
Yes.
So what's the thinking behind the institute? What is it trying to do?
The word Naboisho is Maasai. It comes from the Maasai word for one. If you're told to say your numbers in Kimasai, Nabo is the first, is number 1. So Naboisho means oneness and coming together in unity, a unity of purpose. So my mom is Maasai. I am actually Maasai on my mom's side. And this is actually her brainchild, just conceptualizing the entire ethos and I use the word identity in a very loose way of the institute. This was just me and I was having this intellectual exchange with my mom, and that's what we came up with. The idea of unity and oneness for me is a very appealing one because we've become very individualized, even in the way we see things and we see people and we see phenomenon happening in our society. As long as I'm not affected, me, I'm good. Or we tend to pathologize things and people at the individual level. You are a bad parent, you are a bad this and a bad this, instead of looking at things from a very zoomed out perspective, in the sense of all of us belong in this system or in this society. And therefore, our solutions cannot be individual solutions. They have to be solutions that we come up with together. So for me, that was it. Now, who is then the Naboisho Leadership Institute? We are built on the premise that transitionary spaces are actually either completely gone, or the few that are there are disappearing. And for now, we are focusing specifically on the transitionary spaces for young people, because that is where the biggest need is. Across society, transitionary spaces for everybody have disappeared. And that is why you find people in their 70s and 80s vying for president.
Yes. Yeah.
At 80, let's be honest. At 80, you should be retiring. I mean, you should be resting. And you should not be resting because you've wasted your life. You've been working, but now you've been grooming other people to take over. And that is why in our traditional societies as Africans, we had the age set. You reach a certain age, you have to empower the young people coming up so that they take over leadership, they take over going to war. You can't have an 80-year-old man saying he's the one leading the church going to war. You will be killed. Like it's no longer in your physical and social purview to always be at the front line. You need to learn how to say, I have done my part, I have groomed the next, generation. And I know now even the word grooming is seen in very problematic.
Yeah.
I know. But grooming was about coaching and imparting leadership skills on the next generation, right? Even that is gone. So old people, you find old people, and I don't think that's normal. At least it's not normal for a 90-year-old man to still be birthing young babies.
Yes, it's not.
It's not normal. The 90-year-old should now be a great-grandfather, imparting wisdom and knowledge. He's the tekayo you leave the small children with when all of you have to go and do stuff, because that is his work. Now he gives the story. He now begins to hand over the culture, the law to the next generations. He's not the one now changing diapers and doing all those kinds of things or being involved in those things. It's not normal. So now what we do at the Leadership Institute is we work with young people. And when we started working, we decided many such initiatives think of youth in terms of age, 15 to 35. Or if you want to talk about the ones that have reached the age of maturity, 18 to 35. And so we did this survey, and we found actually 4 distinct segments of young people and where they are in life. Nothing necessarily to do with age. Because you could be that you are 30 years old, which would technically make you youth, but you are at the stage of where someone was at 25, maybe because you got married early or you had children early or something like that. So it's not just necessarily about the age, it's about the life stage and what you need to move from here to there. So that's what we do. We offer young people transitionary bridges based on their context to get them from here to there. But not once we get them there, we don't leave them there. We have to find ways of making sure that the road doesn't end there. And then when they reach there, it's just like when they were here. They are stuck, they don't know what to do. they are either underemployed, because once you get someone a job, you're like, oh, they have a job, but they're unhappy, they're unemployed, they don't have any rights, they don't have any privileges, they don't have any benefits. So it's about getting them to a dignified there, and then also now giving them the opportunity to pull others with them. No longer be, we've been accused of being the generation that cut the bridges, or we climbed with the ladder to the rooftop and then we pushed the ladder from the wall. So nobody can come up after us. So we are there to rebuild those bridges and those ladders, but also to make sure that others, they're bringing people with them. And also because young people don't remain young forever. The Gen Z of today, who is 25, will be 35 in 10 years and 45 in 20 years. And I know when you tell people 20 years, they're like, that's a long time. It's really not a long time.
It's
20
not.
years is Uhuru, and is the 10 years of 15 years is the 10 years of Uhuru and 5 years of Ruto. Flew by just like this.
Like that.
15 years gone. Yes, it's not a lot. So that's what we do at the institute, and we are not very old. We're actually still in the formation process, because that you have to do things in a legal way. You have to look for like papers and registration. So we are in that process, but as we're in that process, nothing is stopping us from beginning the work itself. So we even have a podcast that is in place. Looking forward to having you on the podcast, Prof, because I think you'll have insights about how to transition young people, because you're still in the university system, so you know what that looks like, transitioning children from, and I'm calling them children because in many ways they're still children, and we have to protect them, not necessarily be paternalistic towards them. So young people just from the school system into the life system. And I always like to say it's like this big highway. You can't just be brought to the edge of the highway and you're told, utajipanga. You have to have someone to hold your hand and show you how to. This 15-lane highway with cars speeding past, you have to have someone to help you. So that's what we do that's what we have started doing, and we plan and hope to continue to do.
And you kind of, you were in my class. Actually, it's a transition class where I'm trying to help the students think about who am I now? What has university done for me? And what am I going to do when I get out there? And from my sense of it, they get confused because there are no notes. Yeah. There are no notes to take. There's no exam to do. There are no PowerPoints to cram.
Yes. And this is the thing. When I did this survey, and I have to say this because that's one of the results that shocked me. When I did that survey, and I'm gonna pull it up here so that I'm not speaking out of turn.
As you're pulling it up, maybe you can just say what was your thinking behind putting out this questionnaire, and what did you want to find out?
One of the things I wanted to find out is, like I said, the intention behind it was to do what in the research or science you call a segmentation study. Everybody was saying young people require soft skills. And that was my original premise. They require soft skills, and so we will start this thing, we'll offer them soft skills because everybody else is offering them technical skills. A part of that is true about the soft skill, but not in the way that I was imagining. So one of the questions I was asking them is in terms of, if you have, what is your level of education? And some of them said I dropped out. And there were interesting reasons why there were people who were saying they dropped out because they were no longer interested. They just felt education was no longer for them, or some had academic difficulty. Majority had financial constraints, so they dropped because of the finances. But some of them just lack of interest. About 10% said I was no longer interested in being in college or university. Then I asked them, if you completed your studies, this was the question, if you completed your studies, do you feel they prepared you for employment? 42.1% said yes.
What?
Openly. 34.1% said somewhat, going towards yes. Only 23 said no.
So what the media is
Which
telling
shocked
us
me.
is BS about half-baked,
Oh, yeah,
I
yeah.
don't know.
No. They don't feel they're half-baked. They don't feel, they actually felt they were adequately prepared. Somebody said, yeah, my studies provided a strong academic and communication foundation. I have gained most of my practical work-related skills through hands-on community projects and youth-led initiatives, which have made me connect theory to real-world application. Someone said, yes, I got the skills that are required. I have necessary knowledge and understanding of what I'm supposed to do. I am literally well aware of my field. I am actually reading the verbatims. I'm not making this up. I got enough skills to prepare me to find good jobs in the market. I have acquired enough skills and exposure from my course. These are, I'm reading the verbatims here. And it was, I cannot say that I interviewed 1,000, 2,000 people, but the sample was strong enough to say we can actually extrapolate this onto a wider population. People feel that the degrees they are doing, they're being well delivered. And mind you, this was not only done by Nairobi students. I had people filling these surveys in as far as Kisumu County. 23 out of the 47 counties people are represented in this survey. So it's not just the Nairobi private university crew. No. I had people filling this from different universities, Eldoret, Coast, Machakos, all the universities that are spread all over are pretty well represented in this survey. So they feel education is giving them what it should give. But the biggest barrier is there is no connector between education and what they're calling the real world. That is the biggest barrier for them. There is no connection. So they finish and then they're like, what next? What am I supposed to do? What happens after this? And nobody is telling them, let me hold your hand and help you to cross the road. It is that speech by the former DP, hakuna kazi, mujipange. And then a big chunk of, I don't want to say a big chunk, but a chunk of the people that filled this are actually interested in being entrepreneurial and branching out on their own and creating jobs and doing all those things because they can see the need where we don't. I keep saying 10, 15 years ago or a few years ago when I was in university, nobody sat down and said, I want to be a content creator. And of course, the term content creator is seen in very dim terms. But some of the content creators we have today, which is actually a discussion I was having with someone who was trying to make a distinction between journalism and content, that the people doing journalism are trained, the people doing content are not. I was like, that's actually not true because your industry is not absorbing all journalism students. Where do you think they're going?
Yes, by the way.
They are opening news channels, they are opening all these channels, and they're using the skills that they gained from the certificate, diploma, degree level in creating the content. So they are actually qualified. They have papers to show and training to show. Only that we call this the informal economy. Content
I hate
creation.
that term. I hate it.
Journalism is in the formal economy. Content is in the informal economy. But young people have discovered something that we don't know. The GDP, if you look at the value of that informal sector, I think it's even, I can't remember if it was Dana Seda who was saying this on his Twitter, is actually the creative economy has a larger value, I think, than, was it agriculture or which industry was he comparing the two to? So young people have discovered there's money in this, there's wealth, there is value in this informal economy. And they're very happy to go there. They're happy to do their thing. And they're happy to bring others along. But, the barriers that they're getting, I don't know, you need 15 licenses. I don't know, you need to, I don't know, taxes. The taxman comes to you before he offers you an incentive. He's already grabbing your money, and all the young people are like, hey, what do I do? Where do I go? How do I maneuver? This thing. And so that's what we want to do. I saw from this survey that, and another thing that that we were asking actually in this survey is, what are some of the let me just read it, the frustrations you have with yes, what are the biggest challenges in general facing your generation, not just you, in general? Lack of guidance, lack of mentors. They reach that edge, and lack of mentorship and career guidance. And another thing they said, and then of course they also were looking inward and saying identity crisis, society. Oh yeah, they said there's a very bad social culture where, and I'm quoting this, society takes us to be lazy and uncaring. So there's a way we view them that is so paternalistic, so problematic, and they know, and they can see this. And it frustrates them because they're saying, I work hard, I'm not entitled, I am happy to put in the hours and to sweat, but I just don't have the opportunity, I don't have the connections, I don't have someone to guide me and tell me this is what to do. I just need someone to point me in the right direction, and I'm good to go. So those are some of the things we really want to put in place once we have done everything, the registration complete, etc.
Yeah. There was a study by Sifuna like more than 10 years ago. I can't now remember where I read it, but he was saying they did a survey of university students, and they said that over 60% had no intention to be employed after 5 years. So when the media was shouting about, the problem with graduates is that they expect employment, they are not job creators, it doesn't exist. But I'm telling you, that narrative of half-baked graduates, these people don't want to create jobs, it is so entrenched. And the universities which should be confirming if these things are true, they've not confirmed. So we work with an inferiority complex. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've heard lecturers saying, we need to be relevant. We are relevant. And sometimes I've found, if I try to, because even me, I've been affected by that narrative, when I try to say, okay, what I'm teaching is connected to what you saw in the papers today, the students roll their eyes and they're just like, okay, here we go again. Irrelevant things, we are not going to be tested on it. So that narrative against the school system has been so pervasive. And I think even our children in the high schools, they are kind of believing it.
I find that all these are the assumptions that young people are saying they have a problem with. We have been working on assumptions. And I'll tell you something. When these young people say they don't want to be employed, it's not because they don't want jobs.
Yes.
It's because they don't want to enter into the toxicity of the current capitalistic workplaces. They have been watching us, sitting in the office until midnight, and you have very little to show for it. So they don't want to go that route. They also feel life is there to be lived and appreciated. So they want a place where you can take care of your children while still working, not necessarily being a slave to an office or a slave to a job. They want spaces where they can, you don't have to get in trouble because you entered the office at 8:15 instead of at 8, where you don't have to sit at your desk until 5 to show everybody that you're working, that you can finish your day's allocation of work by midday. And if you finish by midday, you should just go home and they have other interests. If you look at young people today and you ask them, what are your interests? They're like, I go for poetry slams. I don't know, I'm doing music on the side. I'm doing this, I'm doing the other. And for them, these are things that form the whole. And I love this for them because the things we loved we put them aside because we were pursuing careers and pursuing, longevity in our workplace. We're pursuing these things. They have no such attachments. And if they come and work at your place for 3 months and you're abusing them, they will just quit. not because they don't want to work, but they're thinking, why are we accepting the same abuse our parents accepted? And they have nothing to show for that abuse. So they have I think, a very different way of viewing work. And so they want to employ themselves. They want to have some autonomy, some freedom to live their lives. And I think that's okay. That's really fine. But they also want to serve the community. They're happy to do that and to serve other young people. Only that they're not getting the opportunities to do these things. And of course, if you look at the older generation, they're like, hiyo haitawezekana. If I didn't do it, I want to make the young person believe they cannot do it. When the young person is seeing possibilities where I don't see the possibilities.
Mm.
Yeah. Mm.
So I invited you to my exit class, which I was trying to tell people about the workplace.
Yes.
And one of the things I start off the class by doing is asking, what would you like to be? Like, really, if everything is constant, what would you like to be? And some of those careers that the students are saying they really want to pursue are in areas that are not tested, like professional sports and the arts. I don't know, how would you frame that in a way that if both the young person and the parents who might have to foot that bill, how would you frame it so that they are not clashing with each other? The parents saying, pay bills, and the young person is saying, I can't, but I need your support.
I would frame it as the core of what I'm talking about when I talk about transitions. You know, and it's not just about young people necessarily. If I was to give you an example, like transitions for a woman who is pregnant and about to become a mom. Of course, there's the 9 months of, if it's a normal pregnancy without any complications, it's about 36 to 40 weeks. In that time, there are things you do, but you're preparing yourself. But even that, unless you live in the US, you get a maternity leave. Maternity leave in Kenya is, I think, 3 months. And of course, if you work with a humane HR and you add on your leave days, you can actually be away for up to 6 months if you plan it well. That the 9 months plus the 6 months is a transitionary space. And even many women are saying it's not enough to ask me to come back to work after 3 months because I've barely healed, I've barely learned how to handle this baby. But there is that transitionary space. In our traditional societies, a woman would be taken by other women for 9 months. You're not allowed to go to the shamba. You're not allowed to even be visited by your husband at night until you're fully up to a year. The women help you with the baby. They show you how to bathe the baby. They do this. It's about the transition. When young people finish university, the parents always feel relieved. Final school fees, now you'll stand on your own. But in this work that we are doing at the Institute, the plan is to work closely with parents. Why? It is to tell parents that the reality of today is not that your child, because you see this as your child, will finish university and become independent immediately. That doesn't happen. Even in our days, it never used to happen. We really road-dogged through this thing. It doesn't happen. There has to be a transition plan in place. So assuming this person wants to become a sports person, maybe a runner or even a mountain climber. Some people who are, they have made a career out of climbing mountains and they're doing very well for themselves. Wants to become whatever it is that they want to become. I think the parents and this young person, because this young person is now becoming an adult. They are not yet an adult. They are becoming one. There has to be, as the person is about to finish their studies, there has to be a discussion. What is the transition plan? And both sides have to be very realistic. Say I want to become a person who's playing darts, like this gentleman who went and won this competition in the assuming I'm pretty good at it. If in the transition plan, it's not seeming to be working, there has to be a discussion. And that discussion is best left to these two entities. But there has to be a discussion. What support do you need? What do you need to make this happen? And if it's not happening at the speed and that you envisioned and the way you envisioned, what is the plan? I personally always wanted to be a writer. I have a novel that I've been querying for the last like 6 or 7 years. I have short stories. I have a story in Lolwe. I have some stories here and there. If it was up to me, I would have quit everything to become a professional writer. But the reality is that's not happening at the speed I envisioned.
Mhm.
That doesn't mean I've buried my plan completely in some back garden and I've abandoned that project. The project is ongoing, but I've had to readjust the dream a little bit and say, I have the skill and the papers to do this, which I will continue to do while I give space to my dream. That will mean putting in extra hours. I have to wake up at 4 o'clock to write. I have to maybe sleep at midnight or at 1 when everybody's sleeping so that I have my extra 2 to 3 hours a day to read and write. That is something that I must do for myself, even at this age, because dreams don't die.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say that in transition conversations, there has to be a negotiation. And it cannot happen on one side. And the parents, and I really want to urge parents on this, if we bring our children to the edge and say, this is where we step off, jipange, you're actually bringing them to the cliff. And you have to ask yourself as a parent, does your child have the ability to be, and I've said this on my podcast, to become Tarzan or Superman, to catapult themselves to the other side? Or are you willing to hold on a little bit more and walk with this young person? And it could be getting them a mentor, getting them somebody who is not yourself. Maybe you might be too close and you're feeling so, we've been supporting you, na sasa tumechoka. And so there has to be, that's why I was saying the transition mechanisms are broken. If they were not broken, it would be very easy to say, let's transition you smoothly or slowly or at whatever speed to whatever it is that you want. It could also mean that you link up this young person to somebody like that gentleman who did the darts, and his route was very tough because he had to be given sponsorship by other people, but because he has already cut a path, we are now not cutting through the undergrowth. There is a pathway there. Can we widen that pathway to accommodate more people? Can we create alternative pathways that are alongside his path as well? That is how to do it. It's hard work. There are no easy answers, but what I would say is I would urge there to be a transitionary plan. We taper off the support to this young person as
Yes.
we empower them to stand on their own. But if we just dump them, they will collapse.
I think, speaking as a parent, I think the worry is, especially because they are young, they are having fun, and you're seeing it that they are doing it at your expense. And you're like, this money I'm giving you is not for you to go and have fun. It's for you to establish yourself. And yet this is what you're doing. I think that's the fear of parents, that the person will never stop suckling if I continue supporting them like this. It's better I just make a clean break and throw them off the cliff and wait and see what happens.
And see what happens to them,
Yeah. I mean, how would you respond to that fear of parents?
That fear is valid. It is very valid. And I want us to look at this young person from their perspective, based on the elephant that we have described. This is a young person that knows the moment I finish university, they're cutting off the support. I'm left on my own. And that's why you see it nowadays. I don't know if you've seen this. I'm sure you've seen this also with your students. There are people who've been doing degrees for 6 years. A degree should have finished in 3 or 4 years. Yeah. And when you ask them, they say, oh, there's one cut I didn't do. I didn't turn up for one exam. I don't know, CG, I didn't do my project. People do projects for 3 years. I'm like, hey, can you finish this project and just give you pass mark, you go. It's not that they don't want to finish. It's the fear of this elephant, this society that I am in, that there are no jobs, there are no prospects, and all these things. And they don't want to go the route of hopelessness and disappearing somewhere. That's number one. Number two, it's also a valid fear because I feel like our young people use fun and all the pursuits, even these people doing the snake dance on the matatus. It's a form of masking the realities that they face.
In fact, that's what I thought when I saw those maths. I said, this is a cover-up. They're covering up something.
Prof, this country is pretty grim.
It is.
Every day, there is just something. You wake up in the morning, children have burnt in a school. You wake up the next morning, I don't know who this has happened. You wake up the next morning, there's Ebola and Ebola center that, there's a lot of... You wake up, there are children disappearing. You wake up, I don't know who has been up. This country can get pretty grim. You wake up, we woke up on 14th of May, and fuel was how much, many more, from nowhere, and everyone is like, wait, what? You wake up in the morning, today bread was 100 shillings, tomorrow it's 118, and you're like, I didn't buy this thing for 100 bob the other day. Why is it 118? And the person in the shop tells you, fuel has gone up, and I don't know. So it can be pretty grim in this country. And the spaces to have and experience joy have really shrunk. Look at Uhuru Park. Uhuru Park, I don't know what happened to Uhuru Park. I don't know. I used to love going. Yes, I used to love going to Karura when it was 100 bob, and I don't know. Now you go there, you went there one morning and you're finding, e-citizen, I don't know, there was a long procedure, I don't know it's how much, and you're like, hiya. Even the avenues and spaces to have fun are reducing to experience joy. You cannot even now walk in your neighborhood safely for fear somebody will on a border will come and whack you on the head with a metal pipe and either kill you or rob you. So, and like I said, this is the society these young people live in, and it's a young thing to have fun. Even when you're being told to connect with your inner child, it's about having fun and experiencing joy, because as adults we forget joy. We are so grim and so serious. So what we need to do as we think about, it's not that they are wasting time and money, is that they're trying to hold on to as much joy as possible before they enter the world of work and they're forced to abandon that joy. So that is the transition conversation for me becomes so pertinent in that context, because we also have to transition young people to understand that you don't have to drop the joy, you don't have to drop the fun. It doesn't have to be dangerous. You don't have to dangle on a weaving matatu to experience joy. Even transitions have to be based on joy and have to be based on, there's an allowance for people to have fun. Only that now the spaces for fun are dangerous, because when your child tells you, I'm going out, like my son, he tells me, I've gone to see my friend. I'm like, hey, wait a minute. I have to syndikiza you. I have to take you. I have to call the mother of that house where you are going. When you finish, that mother has to call me. I'm bringing your boy back. He cannot walk, and it's less than a kilometer distance, because who knows what will happen between here and there. So as society becomes more and more unsafe, young people have, they now have to have the fun in very unsafe ways as well. So we are going back to the elephant conversation. We must fix our society. We must fix our country. We must fix our cultures to make them safe and give young people safe spaces. But as we do that, what do we do alongside? We have to start from somewhere. My thing is to start from the transition space. How do we transition young people to tell them it's okay to finish university? You don't have to sit here and do your project for 5 years. Finish. We will connect you to a mentor. We will find you a connection. And then you can now start going. You don't be scared. It's the fear. You don't have to be afraid of the transition. It is inevitable. You'll still have to do it. But can we make it a little bit more palatable, a little bit more smooth, and still be filled with joy? Because when we take joy away from our kids, they start doing these things that they're doing out here.
I mean, and even when you think of it, like if a young person has to beg for funds to go for a roller skating tournament, I mean, if that's what it takes to do something decent like skating,
Yes. Yes.
I mean, now it makes sense. Then it's better to just hang on number 3. Like, really, those are your options.
Or it's better to go to that road between Ngong town. Is it Ngong? That's Ngong town. Going down to my, it's not my Mahio, going down to Suswa. There's that new road that was built through. I've seen doing skating stunts there that was so dangerous and banging into vehicles that were coming up those hairpin bends. It's either that or you come online and beg every single day for people to put money onto a pay bill or onto an mchanga for you to go and do skating to represent the country. These are the choices we are giving people. We are giving people choices between go to Saudi and do this dangerous job where people, I'm seeing women being dangling from rooftops on the 55th floor, being thrown off buildings and being treated in such a racist and nasty way, or stay here and bother your parent and not finish education because you still want to, you are hanging on to the little security you have left. These are the choices we are putting in front of our young people, and they are unfair choices. So we need to expand the ways that we view youth. One, without romanticizing them, they must take responsibility for their lives. At some point, like you say, you cannot keep suckling. At some point, we have to cut you off from the milk, but also not pathologize. We cannot romanticize or pathologize young people, which is
We
how
have to wean them.
We have to find a balanced view, and the only way to do that is to work with them and ask them, what do you want? What are you afraid of? And what can we do as the adults to alleviate this fear so that you are, when we remove you from the breast milk, to use that term in a metaphoric sense, you don't feel like we are not feeding you. We are removing you from the breast milk because we want you to start eating meat and ngwashe and all these things. And these things are good for you. And, you know, they will help you to grow and they will help you to become strong. But we have to have that conversation and practice, not to go even beyond the conversation, and practice in a very practical, human-centered, joy-centered manner.
So what kind of programs are you thinking of doing? I mentioned I might have to send someone to you. Yeah.
Send all of them. Send all of them. I love young people. I started working with young people actually when I was a very young teenager myself in church. So that's a long story. I grew up in church, in the evangelical church. Then I left a little bit because I was like, this thing. And now I'm trying to find sort of my way back into not church, but that liberation theology, because I keep saying that Jesus was he was a person who was for freedom. Yes. Freedom for everybody. So I'm in that process. But the programs we will be doing are, I'm now in the process of compiling this research that I was sharing with you. We have 4 main segments. Each segment will have their own bespoke pathway. Out of these 4 segments, 2 of them are the entryway. We have the entryway coming out of school. Whether you're coming out of high school, whether you're coming out of college, TVET, university, it doesn't matter. You're coming out of school and you are now faced with, hey, this world that I'm going into is so uncertain. I don't know. So that's the first entry point. The second entry point are what are usually called NEET youth, NEET, not in employment, education, or training. And now I saw a MasterCard Foundation report called the 2026 Job Employment Survey. It's a big report. It's on their website. It's about 70-something pages long. And it showed that the higher the education for young people, the more they become NEET. That shocked me to my core, because we always assume NEET youth who are not in employment, education, and training are youth without papers. But every category of people, whether you've got some primary education, secondary, and some post-secondary education, the NEET numbers keep increasing. So it means we have a high number of young people who are not in employment, they're not in training, they're not in education, and they're stuck somewhere. So those are the two entry points. Either you are coming out of school or you are coming out of this space where you are not in you are stuck somewhere. These are the two entry points into that program. And then once you enter the program, now they've got the people who want to go the entrepreneurship stroke non-conventional side. There are people who want to go the conventional route. Me, I want a 9 to 5. I like the safety and the predictability of the 9 to 5, which means I don't work after 5, which means I don't work on weekends. There are people who want that. And because they have trained in the profession, the lawyers, the people who've trained in those places, the accountants, those people, they want to go there. So once you either enter through this NEET path into either one of these, or you come in from school into either one of these. So these are the two entry points, and then we give bespoke attention. So these are bespoke programs. It's not that there are 4 programs. They all have one starting point. We have to activate you. Activate or reactivate you. We have to activate you from the school or reactivate you if you've been out here. Because in the survey, there are people who have been looking for work for 7 years. In the survey that I was 7 years out there looking for work. Some have even given up. They've said, and they have degrees. They have given up. So and let me tell you, this is the thing that pained me. I have personally met someone with a master's degree going to look for casual work at East Africa breweries. You know those ones, the casuals who go and sit outside there, and then you are called you, and you come. That is where some of those people have master's degrees. And we're not saying that they shouldn't do those kinds of jobs, but what is the purpose of doing a master's in economics or a master's in something, and then you have no way of advancing yourself? So the programs will be activating or reactivating, and then we work. What do you want? This is what I want. The key things across all the segments will be mentorship, because the number one barrier is lack of connections and networks. The only people who can give you networks are mentors. If I call you today and tell you, Prof, do you know someone who needs an intern? You will look at your contacts, and by the end of the day, you'll find at least one who is willing to take an intern, who is willing to take someone. Oh, I'm actually looking for somebody. And they don't have to be at big jobs at Safaricom or Nini. It could be, I have a hardware and I need someone to be doing for me my monthly returns, because now KRA have become that's a job. That's a job, at least once a month or twice a week, I have to go and do returns for this person. You move from sitting and doing nothing into, I have this gig, I have this thing. Safaricom and the big organizations cannot absorb everyone. So the need is right here in our community. Our community needs experts, they need people, they need interns, they need workers. So we begin from there through mentorship and connections and career days. If someone comes and spends the day with you, they can say, oh, by the way, at some point I might want to become a teacher, like Mwalimu Wandia. Because they're shadowing you and they're thinking, this is actually not so bad. Because they might see you standing in front of them and think, what is this person telling me?
The impression I get from what young people tell me is that they think it's my degree that made me who I am. They don't see the work that I have been doing after I graduated and that I still do.
Exactly. When I was still in the classroom, I had one of my students tell me, Mwalimu, sorry, I don't want to be like you because you people are perennially broke. And I was like, oh, wow. I mean, I loved the honesty of it. But which also brings me to one of the key things we'll be focusing on at the Institute. the idea of work is very warped.
Yes, very.
With our young people, based
Yeah.
on the society.
Yes.
Based on the society. We have glamorized thieves, we have glamorized politicians, we have, just yesterday, there was someone being caught. Well, the figures have been changing. So it was somewhere between 61 and 250 million that was found in his house. Cash money. What work is this person doing to have those amounts of money in his house, in suitcases or wherever, in sacks or whatever? Seriously? For real?
My mind can't. I can't.
I mean, it's ridiculous. So we have changed the idea of work. We think work is appearances. I was actually watching the video of one of the CSs arriving at the Utumishi fire, at the site, like the aftermath. And he arrived with a camera crew. And I'm like, okay. I like that the two camera people have a job. They have to shadow this CS and create content for him. But what work at that point was he doing? At that point.
Performance.
So exactly.
Spectacle.
Exactly. That is it. But that was not the purpose of work. Work is the thing that gives you satisfaction. I have left my house today, or I might even be working from home, but I have done something towards the betterment of humanity. I've done something today. That satisfaction when you're switching off your lights at night and saying, leo nimefanya kazi. It might have been invisible work. Maybe nobody even recognized you for it. But down here, you have maintained your integrity and the purity of your soul through working and serving other people, not just serving yourself. So we are going to be also sitting on that premise that work is not performance. Work is not about gaining money. There's this big phrase. What does it gain the man to gain the whole world and lose your soul?
And lose his soul.
And the Kenyan soul is on the it is on the line. It's like we are losing humanity. We are losing empathy. We are losing understanding and replacing it with fake empathy. When someone tells you, I hear you, and they're not hearing you. When someone tells you, oh, this is a safe space. No, it's not a safe space. It's not, because what does safety mean? There is no safety for me to express myself, because if I express myself, I get abducted, I get arrested, I get harassed, I get fired. It's not really a safe space. So we have replaced the true value of work, exerting yourself, sweating, that sweat of, nimefanya kazi leo. We have replaced that with performance, the appearance of working, and what you like to talk to us about, bullshit jobs. People are not really working. People are not working. They are roaming around in nice clothes, appearing to do things, but at the end of the day, if you ask them, what have you really done today? They're not sure. We want our young people to understand the value of work. That is not just about the money. Money is good. We're not saying money is not good. Money is good. But it cannot be the SI unit of working. I must get as much money as possible. And another thing that we want young people to understand is to trust the process.
Yes.
We have internalized a lot of American talking points. I want to be a CEO by 25. Why would you want the responsibility of a CEO at 25? Do you know how heavy the mantle of a CEO is? You have the lives of people and their families in your hands. That's not a responsibility you should be taking lightly. Oh, I dropped out of school and I went and started a company in my parents' garage. That is a tech bro American talking point. These people are not telling us their parents were wealthy, their parents could afford, and that they could afford to send them back to school after they had done their little experiments here. So, can you trust the process? Can you trust that You don't have to be promoted every 6 months. Start at entry level, then you become an associate, then you become an officer, then you become a manager, then you become a director, all within the span of 2 years. Trust the process. There's nothing wrong with learning and hanging on to the discomfort of learning. Learning is very uncomfortable, by the way. And I learned this through the PhD. It humbled me because it showed me, yeah, you have come from Oxford with your Master of Science, but there's nothing you know. And even after I finished the PhD, I realized, hey, if that is knowledge, then I know very little. And I had to trust the process of reading and working year in, year out. And I cannot even sit here and comfortably call myself, I am an expert. I'm still in the continual process of reading and learning. I must trust the process. I want, for me as an individual, for young people to trust the process of learning and gaining experience. You don't have to circumvent and become a billionaire at 30. If that happens, good for you. And we will support you through that so that you don't lose your millions by the time you're 35 and you've become an alcoholic by 38 because you can't believe you lost all this money, which is a common story. Trust the process, gain the experience, and learn the value of work beyond just serving yourself into serving other people. And you see, even as you gain your millions, I've seen people, the more money they get, the more humble they become. Because they realize, I am getting this money on the sweat of other people. You cannot become a billionaire just by sitting and doing, I don't know, CG. I know all these people doing online CG, Forex, nini, questionable. And many shortcuts that young people are forced to take. And to some extent, now getting into what I call the goon economy. The goon economy is the economy of conning people and stealing from people and using violence to take things from people. That's actually, and it's a thriving economy. We want young people to understand just work. If you gain your money gainfully and honestly, nobody will ask you questions. Is it possible to do that? Yes. Is it common to do that? No. But the beauty is you don't need billions or even millions to live a decent life. You don't need billions. Trust me, the last 1 year of being also in this transition has taught me that you need very little to be decent and to be at peace. You don't need billions or millions in your bank account. Trust me, you can only drive one car at a time. You can only sleep in one bed at a time. And on one side, you cannot sleep on all sides of your big bed at the same time. You only have one stomach at a time. It's not that we have like 4 stomachs. Like you'll say, I'm going to eat this meat and it's going to go into my rumen or I don't know, the 4 stomachs of the cow. There was the rumen, abomasum, omasum. You only have one stomach and it can only be filled up to a particular point, at which point now you're overdoing it. So we don't need a lot, really. But that you can only know that if you put in an honest day's work and you work and move through life with integrity and honor for yourself and for other people in your community. That is the soul we're talking about that we seem to be losing as the Kenyan people.
And it has an implication for the students, even in the high schools, because if they don't see that prospect, then they ask questions of why do I have to go through this only to suffer when I leave school?
And let me add this. I was in my son was in a boarding school, and I will not say the name. But the few people who know the school will know what I'm talking about. And there were stories that in a small school event, I don't know, it's called World Scholars or something like that. One of the teachers was actually giving leakage to the students. It's like a competition where you've got other kids from other schools coming. I don't know. I can't even. My son wasn't a part of it, but he was giving them leakage. He was giving them answers.
Why?
Not because they have to win. Now,
No.
but that is the culture. All these big schools at some point have been accused of cheating in exams.
Yes.
Who brings them the answers if it's not the teachers? So if at that level of high school, we are already encouraging young people to cheat, we are going to the exam council and finding an insider, you pay them, they give you an exam, you come and show the students and tell them, this is the chemistry that is coming, make sure all of you have passed. If that is what we've been fostering in our schools, cheating. I was watching one of these podcasts that are online, and some Alliance boys were in that podcast saying, yeah, we used to cheat in all our exams. The teachers would bring us leakage. Now, if you bring that young person out into the world and you tell them, can you move with integrity? They will even look at you and laugh at you and say, stupid, you're stupid. Our teachers were giving us exams. That is how we are losing the soul of the country. So these are the same people who are setting fires to school. And they've been watching their people who go before them having exams stolen for them. And I'm not saying that any particular school that has been burnt down right now, that is the general culture. Remember, I spoke about culture being the glue. If part of that culture is cheating culture, we are encouraging shortcuts. Instead of telling people, let's sit down, what areas are we weak in? Can we strengthen those areas?
Yes.
We are buying them exams. We are telling them to be taking shortcuts through life. Do we expect these young people to move with integrity and honor in their lives as they're dealing with one another? You'll
Or
always be
with
looking
confidence.
with
You have no
confidence.
confidence.
Yes, because you've been shown that you cannot go by yourself the way you are like
Yes.
this. We must help you to cheat.
Yeah.
We must help you to take a shortcut. And you know, one thing I've learned in life, there is a joy of taking the long way.
Yes. And the confidence. Nobody can hold you down if you did the work. No one.
Nobody will take it away from you.
Yeah.
Everybody will say, and yeah, others were cheating, lakini you, we know you refused to. You said, I don't want to do these things. And you must move, we must learn how to move like that. There is one of my students who was plagiarizing work and he just wanted, I was being told, just allow him to pass. I refused. And he was so upset with me. He was upset until then I pushed him, he finished, he went. One day I'm coming out of class and I see him. He tells me, Mwalimu, just wait a minute. I have to tell you something. Remember that thesis you forced me to write properly? I made him write that thing like 7 times. Remember that thing you forced me to do so many times? I went. Somebody mentioned to some professor from the US that I did this work. He asked for it. He read it. He liked it. He invited me to go to the US to do this presentation, I don't know, at some university. Why? Imagine, I was even telling him, where are my chocolates from New York?
Because I tell you.
I've never been to the US and he's been to the US. As he was doing that presentation, somebody sitting there inside that presentation looked at him and told him, I can sponsor you to come and do a master's at SOAS, my alma mater. So he was telling me, I am going to your school in September. He went, he finished his master's. He sent me his thesis in an email and told me, Mwalimu, I have finished my master's. So he was coming to tell me, thank God you pushed me the right thing. Do you see? Just that one story always fills me with hope that I am glad I pushed him to do the right thing, because it went and opened just simple doors for him. Imagine if I had said, let me just give him a 40, he passes and goes. I will not have done my work with integrity, and I will not have given him an opportunity to do his work with integrity and confident. So he was very confident. This is my work. I did it. I passed. I went to the US. I presented. I got a sponsorship to go and do a master's at SOAS. You see, that is what we require. We need to start moving with integrity, and it's our responsibility. We are the ones who give leakage to kids. If we stopped giving leakage to kids and armed them with the confidence to do the right thing, 5 years, just we give ourselves 5 years, we will be very far as a country in terms of preserving the soul and the integrity of work and allowing kids to be confident because they're not taking shortcuts, they are doing things the right way.
You know me, I try, by the way. I really try to make my students do the work. I even explain to them, if you do this work properly, you can even use it to open other doors after you finish. They are not bothered. They are not bothered. They still copy paste. And sometimes I go home and I have a stomachache because I'm just like, but on the other hand, I understand that they don't trust the process and I look like a maverick. So they just say, yeah, this is Professor Andia just saying what she always says. It will amount to nothing. So they just take the shortcuts and they get their 40%. I am so tired. I'm really, really tired. I have, even just this week, I told a student, please just do this work. And these are, again, fourth year students about to graduate. So I tell them, just do this work properly. And you can even use it, you can send it to people to look at. So just do it. But I don't know whether I don't think they've had. That's my sense. And I don't blame them. It's the language of Kenya. The language of Kenya is take a shortcut.
And it's the practice and culture of Kenya, quite unfortunately. I'm hoping by me sharing this true story, it will help this because and also because we are not a long-term people.
Yes. Yeah.
When you tell someone the things you're doing today might have an impact on you 10 years down the line, because of that lack of hopelessness, we don't tend to have a long-term view. I remember 2012, as we were going into the elections now, that Mwai Kibaki was handing over the reins. I remember people saying, if we vote in this duo with the cloud hanging over their heads, it's going to affect us 10, 15 years down the line. People are like, don't be vague. Let's go to the Hague. You remember those slogans?
Yeah.
I hope we can now see the repercussions, the long-term effects. And I'm not even talking about specific individuals. I'm talking about the soul of Kenya. We have lost our human. Can you imagine we live in a country where was it 15 months? I can't remember how many months. Every day, 20-something children were disappearing. For 15 months.
Yes, yeah.
We live in that country and nobody did anything about it. We're talking of children. We're talking of young children, age 4, 5, 6, being found, they've been violated, they've been dismembered, they've been murdered, and we are okay. Do you understand when I say the soul of Kenya is on the line? How do we accept that this is okay? And do you remember there was this lady, I don't know if she was suffering depression or something in Kitengela, and people were trying to break down her door while she was busy murdering her child, and people could see through the window. She was murdering her child, and she removed the entrails, and I don't know what she was doing with them. And people were shouting, and it was in the news. It was in the news. It was terrible. And I sat and looked, and I said, we have this was around 5 or so, 4 or 5 years. It wasn't that something that was recent as last year. But of course, we have it has faded into the annals of our histories. That is the kind of country we live in, where 2 brothers are shot because they have violated curfew, where we value curfews and systems and over people, which is what you have actually, there's a time you articulated it so well, and I said, that's the problem. Shoot two brothers, You have taken 2 children from a family at once like this, and we are okay. Everything is going as normal. People are being killed. Children are disappearing. Children are burning other children, their fellow children in schools. That's the country we live in. But we are busy saying, gang of lesbians, parents are bad. It's not that the parents are bad. It's the soul of this country that is wounded. And we must do something about it, because we are going to take all the humanity, all the color, all the joy from our children. And what kind of world will they exist in if we take all these things away? It's an urgent work that we must do. And we begin to restore the balance of honoring one another, honoring yourself, honoring your community, honoring your parents, honoring your friends, and honoring this, the thing that makes us Kenyans, or the thing that makes us who we are. It's urgent work, and we must do it urgently.
It's so funny to me that the spiritual people, the people who are supposedly the spiritual space, they cannot talk like this, how we are talking.
Yeah.
What's that problem? And sometimes I actually confront clergy. I ask them, how come it's me who is talking about this and not you? When I come on Sunday, you're not talking about our soul. Is it an education or what?
It is the elephant.
Yes.
Remember, the clergy were always part of the elite.
Yeah.
They were the third estate. They were the third estate.
Yeah.
Their main service, if you were to look at the history even of the Anglican movement, the history of the kings of England, because that is where we borrowed this from, the clergy were always there to serve the royal families, to even maneuver them when they wanted to divorce, their spouses and marry another one, I don't know, from another place. They were there to make sure they were political players in a political system. We must think of clergy like, and not just here, even the American evangelical movement is basically the prayer breakfast is an evangelical creation. So you can imagine we had an elite. Yes, it was always elite. Because even when you had them, they were meeting in upstate New York and in very wealthy spaces. Elite. That is how we could have a prayer breakfast. Our politicians are very happy and very comfortable. And I'm very sure they'd been given intelligence the night before, that there was a fire at Utumishi. They were very happy to come and continue the prayer breakfast. Something they could have postponed. They continued, because it is that long history of that structure, of that institution. And so the church is not an independent player. It is part of this elephant. And unfortunately, the church has continued with the culture of propping up and platforming very dangerous ideologies and dangerous regimes. And I'll give you an example. Right now, if we run away with the idea that the girls that did this were lesbians, pastors will cling on, or the clergy will cling on to the lesbianism is a sin narrative, meaning they have washed their hands clean of this entire mess.
Yeah.
And they will retreat into the cocoon of spiritualism. Let's pray, let's fast, let's rebuke, let's add more programs into the church to make sure our youth don't get lost. But our youth are already lost.
Yes.
This elephant is lost. It's the elephant. So even the clergy, I think because clergy did a lot of platforming of the previous 2 regimes.
Yes.
This one and the other one, they did a lot of platforming. I always say that God, in his own mercy, and is demanding that the clergy have a national day of repentance. They must come to us and tell us, we are sorry, we misled you, we told you ABCD. what we should have been doing is speaking truth to power. I miss the days of Bishop Alexander Muge. You remember Alexander Muge, the bishop? He used to speak truth to power. You know, his name was Father Anthony Kaiser, the one who was found. Of course, he had been brutally ended, but you know, the police report said that he shot himself using his toe with a rifle. Like, are we being serious? So there's a long history of clergy speaking truth to power, which is what clergy should do, and it is biblical. Forget about the American evangelical tradition and the Anglican tradition and all these traditions that come from having the church as the third estate. Think about the prophet Nathan, for example, in the Bible, going to tell David, you are that man who stole a poor man's sheep to add to your huge flock. To tell him, God is judging you because you have taken another man's wife and engineered for that man to be murdered on the battlefield. If Nathan was the kind of person who sang praises to King David, he would not have come to tell him the truth. The prophets were prophets who spoke truth to power. To say, God is seeing what you're doing. We don't see our church. Of course, you're seeing a few clergy now doing that here and there, but there is no concerted effort by the clergy as a unit on this elephant to come out and speak in one voice and say, "Ai, mumezidi now, this is too much." And to tell us sorry because they are the ones who were platforming this entire mess, and they made people fall for it. And they might actually do it again if I don't know how things will be going.
They might.
They might. So they cannot talk about soul because they are part of the corruption of that soul of them. Yeah, unfortunately.
Even the school system, because now I'm going to the history books about our schools. Of course, they are the ones who built the first secondary school for Africans, which was Alliance. And then Mangu followed almost immediately. And then after that, there was Maseno, which was ACK, and the Catholic schools. So they are embedded in the prestige system of the schools. And the other day, I was reading a book of alumni of one of those schools. I think even us lecturers, we are not serious, because they went and interviewed alumni. And that's when I noticed most of the students who were spoken to, they were either children of chiefs, children of clergy, or children of, actually it was those two. If they were not chiefs, they were clergy, present company included. But there's a way in which I have noticed that the school performance, the people who do really well are children of clergy and teachers.
Absolutely.
That disturbs me, even though, of course, I am in that group. That disturbs me because it means our school system is not expanding in terms of integrating new experiences, new knowledge. We are doing the same thing that was done since the 1920s.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And the tragedy is, even now when you look at the current schools, the way they are, if you think about the St. Patrick's, all these schools were they're all to the church, which means they're embedded into the system that is making the elephant a problematic, and this animal, they're part of it. And we have not made efforts to build new schools. The new schools that have been built are private schools, commercial schools. Some of them are pretty good, but they're private schools. It means they can only now be accessed by a different elite that can afford to take them to these schools. They might not be the Alliance, but it could be, you know, these international schools that are coming up. You know, they've got the IB systems or GCSE or even CBC, but well-equipped and well-resourced. And then they're doing other extra things, you know, like the world scholars, you know, they're taking their children abroad. By the time this child is finishing school, They already have, an idea. I want to go to school in the Netherlands. I want to go to school they already have access to those spaces. But the public schools are not being expanded. The ones that are being built either by politicians, tend to be these day schools or community schools that are not well-resourced, are not even recognized. And people don't want to take their kids there. They want to take their kids back to Olympic. They want to take their kids to those schools that had this aura because they had been propped up by the church and they had been propped up in turn then by the
the
government.
colonial government. The
Absolutely,
Limuru
absolutely.
Girls, Kenya High,
Yep.
Nairobi Primary, those were government schools for Europeans. So
Absolutely.
those are now the government schools that people want their kids to attend.
And because they have strong alumni who
Yes.
are now working in the civil service, they will have access to funds. I mean, I was seeing someone saying, oh, I am giving this school I don't know how many millions. I'm like, this should be a policy to give those millions to every public school. Why are we focusing on this one? Because this one has got alumni with deep pockets and, they've got access to power. They can go and lobby on behalf of their former school. They can marshal funds to build new dormitories, new this, new the other. Not all schools have that kind of access and that kind of privilege.
Mm.
Yeah. So that is the reality of our schools, the reality of our society, and the reality about how we are. And for us to come out of this mess, we must start from the question of redeeming the soul of the country. We must go back to integrity. We must go back to kindness. We must go back to Utu.
Yeah. Mm.
We must go back there because we've lost it. We've lost it as a people. We don't think we have, but we really have. And now everybody's just reactionary. Even when you suggest something on social media, within 5 minutes, you've got 55 insults. And I'm thinking, what I'm saying is not unreasonable. Paid for. Okay, I get it. Okay, makes sense.
It's an economy
bad
of abuse.
because even these people who are being paid because there are no jobs. They are part of the goon economy.
Yes.
In that sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have.
All right. I've really kept you. I had, because of our technical challenges, I've kept you longer than I wanted. But maybe we could just wrap up by, I really think this point you've been making about transition is so important. It's something that has made me rethink also my own approach as a parent. So maybe you could give a word both to the young people, the importance of going through the process, but also the parents. How do we support our young people who are leaving the school system?
I'll leave both parents and our young people with the analogy of the butterfly. So once upon a time, there was this human being, this person that noticed this butterfly. The life cycle, you've got the egg, and then you've got the larval stage, and then the pupa, and then the adult. So the butterfly was going through the final stage from the pupal stage into the adult stage. And this person sees these insects like struggling to come out of this pupal sac, and it's a very thick sac. It's hanging on tightly to this butterfly, and so he comes with a pair of scissors and cuts that open. He releases this butterfly from the pupa, the pupal sac, and when he does that, the butterfly falls to the ground and lies there and dies after some few hours. And so he's asking himself, what happened? And the thing is that, and now this is for the young people, because young people, I want them to understand that if you don't trust the process, if you circumvent the process, if you want people to free you from a little bit of discomfort, what they're doing is coming with a pair of scissors and cutting the pupil sac to free you. But the reason why there's the process of this butterfly, emerging from this pupil sac slowly and painfully is the process that allows the wings to develop the strength and into full capacity. So by the time it's coming out of this pupil sac, it's able to fly.
Yeah.
If someone circumvents that process for you, they're robbing you of your wings and you will not be able to fly. And for the parents, don't free your children from the process. You circumvent and take the shortcut, you're taking away their wings. And one day, if we go with the natural order of things, one day you, the parent, will not be here. You will leave this earth because that is the natural progression of life. And you're going to leave a crippled child, metaphorically crippled child, in this world with no skill, no wings, or the wings are weak because you circumvented the process.
Yes.
And this is also for the teachers. Don't give your children your leakage. Push them. Just push them. When you push them, you allow them to squeeze the wings and the wings grow the strength.
Yeah.
So we must allow ourselves to strive. We've taken away striving. That's why we even love ChatGPT. Oh, Chat, help me to write this application. Chat, help me with my CV. Chat, help me to write a Twitter post. Chat, help me to write LinkedIn post. We have taken away the striving that allows us to strengthen our minds and strengthen our hearts and strengthen our characters. And so many of us are lying limp and wingless. That is not fair. We are not being fair as parents, as lecturers, as teachers, and as young people. You're not being fair to yourself. You will be left in this world struggling with no skills, no strength, no stamina, no resilience. And we live in a world that takes resilience to be a dirty word. Resilience is not necessarily a dirty word. It just means the ability to bounce back, the ability not to sink with a small shock. It's the ability to be elastic and rubbery. And you can only do that if you allow your wings to develop through struggling through that pupil sac. So I will leave everyone with that analogy. Don't be so quick to ask people to cut you out of the pupil sac. Don't be quick to cut young people out of the pupil sac, but support them. Don't just dump them and leave them. All of us require support because when we support young people through their transitions, they will support us through our transitions that's waiting for us in old age. They will be there for us. They may, and being there for us does not mean they must give us money, but they'll be there for us. It's nice to have people around you, that they feel safe around you as a grandparent, as a parent. They're visiting you, they're calling you. It's not this thing of saying, oh, I'm so lonely, my kids have not called me for a year. It's because we did not manage that conversation, that transition together. So, and this is something we have to do together. It will take hard work, but it is doable. It's doable.
All right, that was such a good conversation. Thank you so much. I'm going to call you again very soon so that we can continue.
Anytime for you, Prof. You've opened so many doors for me. You may not know this, but you've opened doors for me. You've mentioned my name in places where I wasn't there, and people came to know about me because of you. So I love talking to you. I learned so many things from you, and for me, this is a privilege for me. So thank you for having me here. And if you call me, I'll come. There are people who call me, I don't even say. I just say when and what, and me, I'll come. You're one of those people. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Asante.